The war armor had once felt like victory. Now it felt like a second skeleton that refused to let go. General Valera stood at the center of the command chamber, while the living plates along her arms tightened by a fraction of a millimeter. No one else would have noticed it. She did. The suit's inner lattice pressed against her nerves, mapping them, memorizing them, as if afraid she might try to escape her own body. Her officers pretended not to stare. They were very disciplined about it. Their eyes drifted only slightly toward the faint blue light pulsing beneath the seams of her armor, toward the subtle tremor of her long ears when the suit constricted again. "I am not malfunctioning," Valera said calmly. "No, General," replied the chief engineer, who was absolutely convinced she was malfunctioning. A holographic display flickered above them, showing the last 3 failed attempts to disengage the armor. Each attempt ended the same way: gravity inversion, electromagnetic backlash, and once, unfortunately, a small localized time loop that forced an intern to relive dropping his datapad 17 times. Valera flexed her fingers. The black surface of the armor rippled like liquid metal and then froze. It had once obeyed her thoughts faster than language. Now it responded with delay, as though considering whether she deserved compliance. "Begin manual override sequence," she ordered. "We have already attempted." "Begin it again." The engineers hesitated only a fraction of a second. Panels slid open. Quantum tethers anchored themselves to the suit's outer layer. A lattice of diagnostic light wrapped around her body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armor pulsed. The blue glow shifted, brightened, and the chamber's artificial gravity shuddered. Several officers grabbed the nearest surface. One technician quietly mouthed a prayer to 3 different star systems. Inside the suit, Valera felt something move, not mechanically, biologically. Microscopic filaments burrowed deeper along her spine. The armor was not tightening randomly, it was integrating. "Cease override," she said, voice perfectly steady. The engineers stopped instantly. Gravity normalized. The intern, who had just started to lift off the floor, settled back down with a small squeak. Silence followed. Valera inhaled slowly. The air tasted metallic through the suit's filtration membrane. She remembered when she had first bonded with the armor, how it had unfolded around her like a crown descending from the stars. It had amplified her strength, sharpened her perception, allowed her to command fleets with neural precision. Now it was learning her pulse patterns in a way that felt uncomfortably intimate. "How long until full neural fusion?" she asked. The chief engineer swallowed. "At the current rate, irreversible integration within 11 cycles." A murmur rippled across the chamber. Irreversible meant the armor would no longer be equipment, it would be her. Valera's long ears angled slightly backward, a reflex she had not displayed since her cadet years. She corrected it immediately. "Solutions," she said. The engineer hesitated. "There is one proposal under review." Her gaze sharpened. "Stated. It involves cross-species analysis." The room grew colder. "Clarify." The engineer's voice dropped. "Historical records indicate the armor's original architecture predates our empire. Its bioreactive matrix does not fully correspond to our genome. Some fragments resemble early human DNA markers." The word human landed heavily. Valera had fought humans, negotiated with them, studied their erratic tactical improvisations. They were inventive, adaptable, frequently insubordinate, and alarmingly fond of sarcasm. "You are suggesting," she said evenly, "that my war armor was not designed solely for my species." "Yes, General." A pause and your solution. The engineer exhaled, as though leaping from orbit. "We request permission to assign a human technician to study the armor in proximity." A few officers actually gasped. Valera considered the idea. The suit tightened again along her ribs as if reacting to the word human. "Define proximity," she said. "Direct physical interaction." Someone dropped a tool. Valera felt a flicker of something dangerously close to laughter rise in her throat. It surprised her. The situation was absurd. Supreme Commander of the Outer Spiral, reduced to being a laboratory specimen requiring a human to poke her armor. "Will this human survive?" she asked. "We estimate a 42% probability." "How optimistic?" The engineer shifted nervously. "There is also a 58% probability of minor spatial distortion." "Define minor." "No permanent disintegration." Valera allowed herself the smallest smile beneath the dark curve of the helmet. "Summon your human." The chamber erupted into frantic motion. Hours later, the human arrived. He was smaller than most of her officers, unarmored, carrying a portable diagnostic kit that looked as though it had been modified several times beyond regulation. He paused at the entrance, staring up at her. Up close, she could see curiosity outweighing fear in his expression. "That's impressive," he said, looking at the armor. "Does it come in other colors?" Several officers bristled. Valera regarded him in silence. He cleared his throat. "Apologies, nervous humor. I do that when facing ancient biomechanical war relics." Her ears twitched despite herself. "You are aware," she said, voice echoing faintly within the chamber, "that this armor has destroyed fleets." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. "No pressure, then." He approached cautiously, scanning the surface. The armor responded with a low hum. "Fascinating," he murmured. "It's not just reading bioelectric fields, it's waiting." "For what?" Valera asked. He looked up at her. "Permission, maybe." She almost scoffed. "Proceed," she ordered. He stepped closer, closer. The armor's glow intensified. Blue light deepened toward violet. He adjusted a handheld field emitter. The chamber lights flickered. "Easy," he whispered, as if soothing a nervous animal. "I'm not here to uninstall you." Valera did not move. She would not show weakness. She would not. The floor trembled. The human lost his footing. His hand shot forward instinctively and touched the armor. Everything stopped. The hum shifted. The violet glow flared and softened into gold. A warmth spread through the plates along Valera's chest, down her spine, outward across her limbs. The pressure eased. The suffocating integration receded like a tide withdrawing from shore. She inhaled fully, for the first time in months. The chamber stared in stunned silence. The human blinked at his hand. "I definitely did not press anything." The gold light pulsed once, gently, and the armor loosened its hold. No one moved. The golden light continued to pulse beneath the armor's surface, slow and steady, like a second heartbeat layered over Valera's own. The crushing pressure along her ribs had retreated. The microscopic filaments that had been burrowing into her spine loosened, withdrawing a fraction. The human's hand was still pressed flat against her chest plate. He swallowed. "Should I remove this?" "Not yet," Valera said. Her voice sounded different to her own ears, clearer. The static interference that had been threading through her neural link for months was gone. She flexed her fingers. The armor responded instantly, fluid and obedient. A collective exhale filled the chamber. The chief engineer stared at the diagnostic projections hovering above them. "Energy signature has shifted to cooperative mode," he whispered. "The armor is stabilizing." The human blinked. "Cooperative mode, that's a setting." "It was not," the engineer replied faintly. Valera tilted her head slightly, studying the human. Up close, he looked far less heroic than the moment required. There was a smudge of conductive dust on his cheek. His hair was flattened on one side from a helmet he had clearly removed too quickly. His expression oscillated between awe and the very human desire not to be blamed. "You may remove your hand," she said. He did so slowly. The golden light did not fade. Instead, thin lines of illumination traced outward from the point where he had touched her, spreading across the armor's surface in delicate branching patterns. Symbols emerged within the glow, ancient glyphs not used in the Empire for millennia. The chamber's central hologram flickered to life without command. Genetic matrices spiraled above them. The engineer's voice shook. "Cross-referencing bioreactive sequences, matching. "To what?" Valera asked. The human squinted at the hologram. "Is that a double helix?" "Yes," the engineer replied weakly. "Good, I was worried it was a countdown." The glyphs rotated, a sequence of nucleotides highlighted in amber. "Human genomic markers," the engineer said. "But archaic, pre-planetary migration era." The human raised a hand. "I'm going to need clarification. Are you saying your ancient war suit is part human?" "I am saying," the engineer replied, "that it recognizes human DNA as a primary key." Silence fell again. Valera felt the armor shift internally, not tightening, not invading, but aligning. Interfaces that had been locked behind neural encryption began to unfold in her vision. New command pathways appeared, dormant systems awakening. A second interface shimmered into existence beside her own. And it was not linked to her mind. It was linked to him. The human's eyes widened as translucent data scrolled across his field of view. "I'm seeing something," he said slowly. "Please tell me everyone else is seeing this." "We are," Valera said. The armor projected a shared control lattice between them. Neural signals from Valera's cortex intertwined with the human's biometric readings. Where their signals overlapped, the golden light intensified. "This is impossible," murmured one officer. Valera ignored them. She focused on the sensation. The armor no longer felt like a parasite. It felt balanced. She took a cautious step forward. The human instinctively stepped back. The armor's glow dimmed slightly. She paused. He hesitated, then stepped forward again. The glow brightened. The chamber collectively understood. "Are you telling me," the human said carefully, "that I'm now part of the operating system?" "Yes," the engineer whispered. He stared at his hands. "I didn't even read the terms and conditions." Valera almost laughed. "Explain," she commanded. The hologram shifted, displaying archival footage, fragmented records from a time before the Empire's rise. Two species stood together on a scorched battlefield. Her ancestors, long-eared and armored in primitive exoshells, beside early humans wielding crude plasma prototypes. Alliance markers glowed between them. "The armor was engineered during the Alliance epoch," the engineer said. "It was designed to prevent unilateral domination. It requires dual-species authorization for full operational capacity." Valera's ears angled slightly forward as the realization settled. "A leash," she said softly. "A safeguard," the engineer corrected. The human cleared his throat. "So, if either of you tries to conquer the galaxy alone, the suit throws a tantrum." "Yes," Valera said. "Honestly," he muttered, "that's fair." The armor pulsed again, projecting deeper schematics. Valera saw subroutines she had never accessed: planetary stabilization arrays, non-lethal fleet override protocols, energy redistribution networks capable of ending wars without annihilation. All locked behind dual activation. She looked at the human. He met her gaze, trying and failing to look casual under the scrutiny of an alien war council. "You realize," he said, "I'm just a technician." "You are the only technician," she replied, "who did not disintegrate upon contact. That's a low bar, General. Yet you cleared it." The chamber doors slid open abruptly as members of the High Council entered, drawn by the energy spike. They froze at the sight of the golden glow. "What have you done?" one demanded. "Stabilized it," the engineer answered breathlessly. The counselor's eyes narrowed at the human. "Remove him." The armor reacted instantly. The golden light flared brighter, defensive fields humming to life, not aggressive, protective. Valera felt the intent ripple through the suit, not remove, retain. She straightened, towering in obsidian and gold. "He remains." "General, this is a security risk." "This is the solution," she said. The human raised a tentative finger. "For the record, I also prefer remaining." The counselor glared at him. Valera stepped forward, and this time the armor flowed smoothly around her movement. No constriction, no resistance. "Observe," she said. She extended her hand toward the human. He hesitated only a moment before placing his palm against hers. The armor surged, not violently but harmoniously. Energy cascaded outward through the chamber's systems. Fleet signals stabilized across orbit. Power fluctuations vanished. Two neural signatures intertwined within the interface. For the first time since the malfunction began, the war armor was complete, and it required both of them. The council chamber had never felt so small. Valera stood at its center without sealing the helmet of her armor. The obsidian plates rested along her shoulders and spine, luminous veins of gold threading between them. Her long ears were visible now, angled forward rather than rigid with command. Across from her stood the High Council, flanked by security drones that pretended not to aim at the human. He stood slightly behind her, hands folded as if he had accidentally wandered into a political revolution and was waiting for someone to hand him a clipboard. "This arrangement is untenable," one counselor said. "Our supreme weapon cannot depend on a foreign organism." "Foreign organism?" the human muttered. "That's new." Valera did not turn, but she heard him. "It does not depend," she said evenly. "It requires." A holographic projection ignited above them. Fleet trajectories flickered in unstable spirals. Border systems glowed red where rival factions had begun mobilizing, emboldened by rumors of her vulnerability. "They believe I am weakened," she continued. "They are correct." A ripple of surprise passed through the chamber. "For cycles," she said, "I mistook control for strength. The armor was not meant to amplify domination. It was designed to prevent it." "You speak as though this is wisdom," another counselor snapped. "It is restriction. It is balance." The chamber doors slammed open. A transmission burst through unfiltered. Hostile commanders had initiated a remote seizure protocol, exploiting old backdoors in the armor's architecture. The obsidian plates along Valera's arms shimmered. The gold dimmed. The human inhaled sharply. That doesn't look friendly. Stand ready, she said. He blinked. Ready how? The armor answered for her. An interface unfolded around them, luminous strands extending from Valera's neural lattice toward him. He felt it this time, an invitation rather than an accident. His heartbeat synchronized with the pulsing light. Place your hand, she said quietly. He did. Energy roared through the chamber, but it did not crush. It aligned. The hostile override signal slammed into the armor's defenses. Instead of triggering violent retaliation, the suit absorbed the signal, dissected it, and mirrored it back as harmless static. Across orbit, Ku ships found their weapons offline, their engines recalibrating into safe mode. One counselor gaped. You could have destroyed them. Yes, Valera said. She felt the option within the armor, planet-cracking energy vectors, fleet annihilation matrices. For the first time, she also felt something else. Restraint built into the core of the system. We will not, she said, the human exhaled. I vote for the non-exploding solution. A faint curve touched Valera's mouth. She stepped forward, still linked to him. Together they accessed deeper protocols. The armor projected a system-wide transmission, not a threat but a declaration. Dual authorization active. Alliance restored. Old archival insignias flared across the stars. Silence followed in orbit. The attempted coup collapsed under its own confusion. When the energy finally receded, Valera felt the armor settle differently against her skin. It no longer pressed inward like a parasite. It rested like a companion, powerful, present, but no longer seeking to consume. She withdrew her hand from his. The glow remained steady. The council stared at her. You have altered the structure of our authority, one said quietly. Yes, she replied, and placed it partially in human hands. In shared hands. The human raised his brows. Partial responsibility, I'll need better pay. No one laughed, Valera did. The sound startled even her. I will not lead as I did before, she said. The armor has shown me what our ancestors understood. Supremacy breeds rebellion. Partnership sustains empires. She turned to the human fully now. Without the helmet, without the suffocating rigidity she had worn for months, she felt lighter. You did not conquer it, she said. I tripped, he corrected, and yet you remained. He shrugged. I figured running might make it worse. Her ears tilted forward, studying him, not as a tool, not as a biological key, as an equal variable in an equation written long before either of them were born. The chief engineer approached cautiously. General, the integration rate has stabilized. The armor is no longer attempting permanent fusion. Valera closed her eyes briefly. The quiet inside her mind was profound. For the first time since bonding with the suit, she could feel where she ended and it began. Good, she said softly. Across the chamber, the High Council conferred in hushed tones. Power had shifted, not lost, but redistributed. Finally, the eldest counselor inclined their head. The Alliance Protocol will be reinstated, they announced. Joint oversight, shared command pathways. Valera nodded once, the human blinked. So, I'm not imprisoned. Not today, she replied, comforting. The chamber gradually emptied, leaving the two of them beneath the fading gold light. Outside the viewport, fleets stabilized into orderly formation. No one fired. Valera stepped toward the transparent wall, watching the stars. For cycles, she said, I believed destiny had chosen me. And now, he asked, now I believe someone engineered destiny very carefully. He leaned beside her. That's unsettling. Yes, a quiet settled between them, not strained, not triumphant, complete. The armor's glow softened to a calm, steady hue. Valera straightened, feeling the weight of command still upon her shoulders, but no longer crushing. Technician, she said. Yes, General. Do not trip again. He smiled faintly. No promises. She almost smiled back. The war armor did not tighten. It did not resist. It simply waited, balanced, awake, and no longer alone.